क्या कर रहे हो?
अपने लिए जॉब सर्च कर रहा हूँ।
जॉब सर्च कर रहे हो? तो आई थिंक ये हमारे सब्सक्राइबर को भी तुम प्रोसेस बता सकते हो क्या,
हाँ,
जॉब स्विच करने का यहाँ पे?
बिल्कुल। Hey guys, my name is Yash and welcome back to our channel The Authentic Indians and welcome back to another vlog। तो ये बेसिकली वीडियो है जिसमें हम आपको बताएंगे कि आप स्विच कैसे कर सकते हैं, स्पेशली जब आप सिंगल परमिट पे हो। ऑफ कोर्स अगर आपके पास पीआर है यहाँ पे बेल्जियम में तो बहुत इजी कर देता है वो आपके लिए यहाँ पे स्विच करने का, लेकिन अगर आपके पास सिंगल परमिट है तो कैसे किया जाए। बहुत से लोगों के हमें क्वेश्चंस भी आते हैं कि सिंगल परमिट पे हम स्विच भी कर सकते हैं या नहीं कर सकते हैं। तो द आंसर इज येस, यू कैन स्विच योर जॉब व्हेन यू आर ऑन द सिंगल परमिट। तो ये वीडियो बेसिकली उसी टॉपिक के बारे में कि आपको किस चीजों का ध्यान रखना है जब आपको स्विच करना है सिंगल परमिट पे। मैंने रिसेंटली स्विच किया था इसी ईयर ही। काफी सारी चीजें, काफी सारे स्ट्रगल्स आए थे हमारे उस प्रोसेस के दौरान में जो हमको नहीं पता थे और हमको विद इन प्रोसेस ही पता चला। तो वी थॉट कि हमको इस टॉपिक पे भी एक वीडियो बनानी चाहिए ताकि हम आप लोगों को गाइड कर सकें, क्योंकि वो गाइडेंस हमारे पास नहीं थी उस टाइम पे। ऑफ कोर्स ये टॉपिक जो है वो काफी डिस्क्लोज नहीं करना चाहते हैं जब तक कि आपका स्विच ना हो जाए। आई होप ये टॉपिक जो है, ये वीडियो जो है आपको हेल्प करेगा और आपके वो जो क्वेश्चंस है उनको आंसर मिल जाएंगे अगर आप स्विच करना चाहते हैं जॉब को। तो लेट्स स्टार्ट दिस वीडियो। बिफोर स्टार्टिंग प्लीज लाइक कर देना वीडियो को, और जो भी आपके क्वेश्चन जो अनआंसर्ड रह गए हैं इस वीडियो के थ्रू वो नीचे कमेंट में बता देना, और अगर नहीं हो तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब कर देना। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट दिस वीडियो। सो द फर्स्ट टॉपिक दैट कम्स टू द माइंड बिफोर स्टार्टिंग विद द प्रोसेस ऑफ सिंगल permit, that is finding a job within Belgium. There are a lot of platforms like LinkedIn, or there are websites like stepstone.de where you can find the jobs. When you go to the LinkedIn and apply for a job, or any other website to apply for a job, the main thing you have to consider is that the job should be eligible for the sponsorship. The employer should be able to sponsor it for you, because you cannot just directly apply for the job when you're working on a single permit. So that's the main thing. When you have your first discussion with the HR or anyone in the company for the particular job you're applying for, make sure that the job is eligible for the sponsorship, so that if you get a job, your employer should be able to file the single permit. Otherwise it's of no use, because it happened with me as well that I applied for a job and they took my first interview. After first interview they asked me, do you need a sponsorship? I said yes, and then they said that sorry, we cannot do that. So make sure you do it at the first instance or the first communication with HR itself, that you ask them specifically, is this job eligible for the sponsorship or not. So first of all, congratulations if you got the job and you are watching this video. So first thing that comes to the mind is the calculation of the notice period. It's not like India that every company has their set of rules, that some companies will say that we have 2 months of notice period and some companies will say that we have only 3 months of notice period. It doesn't work like this in Belgium. In Belgium, it's basically calculated based on your experience within the organization. For example, when I was working for Nike, I was having 3 years of experience within Nike. My notice period was calculated based on my tenure which I have spent in Nike. There are a lot of websites on Google which you can find it out to basically calculate your notice period. Again, it varies based on your experience like I mentioned. So you can go to the website, put your start date of your contract within your previous organization which you are planning to leave, and then put your experience there. If you are white collar or blue collar, you can select those kind of options, and based on that the website will tell you whether you have 6 weeks of notice period or you have 7 weeks of notice period. Again, it depends on your experience. I will put the link in the description as well so that you can use it for your reference to calculate your notice period. In addition to what I told about notice period, one more thing which is important is, again, I didn't know about that. I got to know when I was actually putting the notice, that whenever you give the notice to your company, your notice period actually starts from the upcoming Monday. So for example, in my case, I notified my manager or my employer on Wednesday that hey, I am resigning from the company. Even though I notified my employer on Wednesday, but my notice period still started on the next Monday, because that's how Belgium operates. If you have to send the notice to your employer, again, it depends on company to company. Some companies also accept the email, but in some companies you have to send the registered letter to the company. Like for example, in my case, when I was working for Nike, I was asked to send the letter to the company, and then company sends you letter back that okay, we have accepted your resignation, and that's how your notice period actually starts. So basically what I did in my case was I sent the letter to my employer, and then I got the letter back from the company on Friday, and then from the next Monday my notice period started. So this is how Belgium operates. It varies from company to company. Some companies also have the portals, internal portals. You can check with your employer or your manager. If they accept the resignation from the portal or the email, that's perfectly fine. But in some cases, if they ask you to provide the resignation letter, then you need to send the registered letter to the company. Now the real struggle starts. The new organization for which you get hired for will ask you about the start date, that when you can start working for them, and then that's the date they will also put on the single permit which they will file for. So from that date, whatever date you give, you cannot work for your previous organization. It cannot be the case that your single permit comes for, let's say, 15th of March and then you are still working for your old organization. That cannot happen. As soon as your single permit is approved for the particular date, your previous work permit will be automatically cancelled. So you have to plan these kind of things while giving the new date to your organization. And one catch here is the waiting time of the single permit depends on where your organization is. So for example, if your organization is based in Antwerp or in the Flanders region, the waiting time can be different. If your organization is been based out of Brussels, the waiting time can be separate. Every region has a different waiting time. So for example, my company was based in Antwerp, which comes under the Flanders region. The waiting time in Flanders is relatively more when compared to Brussels or Walloon. When I was checking, the waiting time for the single permit in Brussels at that particular point of time was kind of 2 weeks, but in Flanders it was kind of 2 to 3 months. So it varies. So always ask your employer what is the current waiting time which is going on in your region. So when your organization gives you that waiting time, because normally they have kind of experience in calculating those, they have the contacts which can give them the information. So get that information. On top of that, add the notice period which you will be having, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, and calculate all the days and then give them the start date. In this way, you can always make sure that you are in the safer hand, that when you resign in your previous organization, you always have your single permit in hand. That way you can easily move on to the new organization. There might be also the case that, for example, if you take too much time into buffer, because I've seen that cases as well, that people have not calculated their notice period properly and they have to sit at home for at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Again, if you have a lot of gap in your employment, there might be a case that it can also create a problem in getting the PR within Belgium. So make sure that you don't have the gaps within the employment. So in my case also, what I did was I was leaving the organization on Friday and on Monday I joined the new organization. So I didn't had my gap. So of course the weekend is gap because the organization doesn't work on the weekend. So basically there is no gap. So make sure that there is no employment gap, or even if there is a gap, make sure the gap is only for 1 or 2 days, not more than that. If you get your, for example, single permit for your new organization and everything, if you have dependent here within Belgium, you have to make sure that you have to also apply for the single permit for them again. In my case, I have wife who is also working in Belgium and she is working as a dependent. So you have to also make sure that the residence card is also changed for the dependent, because you got the new card. So you have to make sure that your dependent also has the new card based on your card, because normally the expiry date and the duration of residence depends on you because they are your dependent. So what I did in my case was, as soon as I received my card, even though her card was expiring in December, I just went to commune and asked them that we have to apply for a new card, for which you have to pay like only 25 euros for the new card. So they will take the payment, they will ask you for all the details, and if you submit those kind of documentation, they will start the process. But again, that process can take time, because for example, in my wife's case, her card was expiring in December and I was already applying for the new card for her in March. So they also told us that since the card expiry is too late, so they will not start the process now. The priority will be given for the people whose card is about to expire. But again, in my case, I think within 3 months she got her new residence card. I just want to let you know that you have to go through that process as well. You cannot just skip the card for your dependent. You have to make sure that you also apply for the new residence card for your dependent. So congratulations on your new job if you're watching this video. So I hope ये वीडियो आपके लिए बहुत informational रहेगी to make your transition smooth to your new organization which you have been hired for. Again, for me it was very difficult because last year I didn't had too much of resources or too much of the information who can actually guide me. Again, I learned it based on my experience. When I resigned it, a lot of local people, they helped me. So that's why I thought that let me make a video on that, because a lot of Indian people here, they want to switch, they don't have information on this particular topic. So I hope that this video has been informational for you. So if you like this video, please like it, and if you still have any questions, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, post it down and let us know all the queries, and we will try to answer as much as we can based on the information we have. And subscribe to our channel, The Authentic Indians. See you guys in the next vlog. Bye bye.